Good afternoon, everybody. I am live twice today, this time with our sponsor, Carlene LeMay of C2 Accounting. Welcome, Carlene.
Thank you. How are you? How's everyone today?
I'm hanging in there. It's getting nicer weather in Florida, and I'm watching where I used to live in New York get a little colder, and I'm like kind of happy I'm not there at the moment.
I know I
Honestly.
was commenting you're in your tank top and I'm here in my fluffy sweater, so
I
a little
know.
jealous.
I know. So, all right. So today we're talking about, which is a big one, reconciling your revenue in QuickBooks to your design software, like design files, My Doma, House Pro,
hmm
things like that. How do you get them to talk to each other? And how do you get them to talk to each other in a way that doesn't mess us up?
Yes. So the good thing is with the softwares that you just described, they do sync with QuickBooks. The problem is no software is perfect. There are always going to be some sort of issue when something is syncing, something doesn't sync correctly, something doesn't sync at all. So you have to understand what's in your design software, what is in QuickBooks, and how do you make sure that they match. So it isn't always going to be make sure that they're talking together perfectly because that's just not going to happen. But how do you verify the information in QuickBooks? Because that's what you're going to be giving to your tax provider or your tax advisor at the end of the year. So you want to make sure that is correct.
Correct. All right. How do we do that?
Okay, so the first thing is, why is this even important, right? I talked about giving it to your tax advisor because you could be over or under reporting income. So over reporting, that means you're paying too much in taxes. Under reporting, that means, whew, if you get audited and you find out you owe money, that's a big thing. So this is why this is super important. So what we're going to do, this is going to be a show and tell day.
Okay.
I have a sample QuickBooks file. I have a sample report from design files, and we're going to show what my team does on a monthly basis for our clients and what you can do at home. Okay, so
Okay. So you start sharing, and I'll get rid of some of the things that are going to block
all
us.
right, I'm going to move us over to the other screen.
Going to hide that so that when you
I
share
know
your
so much
screen,
technology, right? Okay,
I know. Stay tuned, everybody. We're getting ready. Okay.
okay, so we are here. So this is from design file. So your report may look a little different if you use MyDoma or if you use House Pro, but at the end of the day, they're all very similar in that you can pull a report of all the invoices that you created in any given month, any given time period. And what you want to do, this is what this is going to look like. We add a couple of columns in here. We add a QBO column. This is for us to say, yep, this is in QBO. And then,
QuickBooks Online, QBO.
sorry, QuickBooks Online, yes. And then we're also adding a column for is it matched or deposited. This is just a way for my team to check to make sure. The thing about bookkeeping is that it's really methodical, right? And that it is kind of process driven. So if you have a process that you follow, it will cover you 90% of the time. So this is the process. So then we pull our invoice report. We're going to pull a payment report because again, we want to make sure that all the payments you put into your design software ended up over in QuickBooks. I'm going to uncheck these. We
Okay.
can do it in real time. And then we pull a report from QuickBooks to see what actually came over. And we're going to start comparing all three. So I shrunk this down to only 4 invoices to make this a little faster than normal.
Yeah.
So this is my QuickBooks report. So I'm looking and I want to know which one of these invoices are over here. So we're going to look 307. We're checking the dollar amount and that's there. Yep, this is good. And then I'm going to look at the next one, invoice number 325.
So,
Yep.
Carlene, you're actually doing this manually for your interior designer clients to make sure that their
Oh, yeah.
design files or their MyDoma or whatever they're using matches their QuickBooks.
Yeah, it is. It is a manual process because we haven't found a software that's going to do this for us automatically. And the only way for us to ensure accuracy is if we do this every month. We call it income reconciliation. We do it the first week of the month. That way, if there are any issues, we can fix them because usually sales taxes are due most places on the 20th. So you have a very short window in which to get this done.
So why doesn't MyDoma or these other software programs, I shouldn't just mention MyDoma, there's lots of
I
them.
know they're like, don't pick on us.
Yeah, I
Right.
know. I don't mean to pick on anyone in particular, but why aren't the interior design software programs that have integrations with QuickBooks matching these and spitting out anything that doesn't match on either side.
That's not how the integration works. So what for some of them it's a one-way integration, meaning that whatever is in your design software will sync to QuickBooks. There are a few where it's two-way. I want to say House Pro is more of a two-way sync. So if you make a change in House Pro, it does sync back over to QuickBooks. But once it's over there, it's done its job, right? The integration is just like spit it out and go for it. Here's some of the mistakes I've seen, especially with sales taxes. So let's say your sales tax is 7%, and because of rounding, by the time it comes over to QuickBooks, because QuickBooks also makes sure it does the right sales tax calculation, it could be off by a few cents.
Oh,
So yeah, so this, let's say your client, the invoice is for $1,000 even, your client pays $1,000, but by the time the invoice gets to QuickBooks, QuickBooks calculates that it should have been 1,000.02. So now
right,
you're showing this like 2-cent unpaid invoice on your books. And you're just like, I don't understand why.
right.
So those are the kind of things that just kind of trip people up, and they're just like, they get frustrated. And so then they go, well, you know what? This doesn't work. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just that it does take a little bit of extra work on your part just to make sure that it's correct every month.
So you
So
need some manual intervention
you
when
do.
you are coordinating and matching your design software to QuickBooks.
To
It's not
QuickBooks.
as smooth as everyone would like it to be
Right.
all the time. Okay.
And you have to make sure that you set it up correctly in the on the front end as well. Design files allows you to do some customization of the how things come across. So does House Pro. My Doma has a little bit more of a limited how much you can kind of tweak what comes over, but making sure that, let's say you have furniture sales and you wanted to come into an account in QuickBooks that says furniture sales. You have to a lot of times match that up and tell it specifically where you want it to go. If not, it comes across and you're like, well, I don't understand. Why is everything just sitting in services, or why is everything just sitting in sales?
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for talking us through that. I went really quickly as we were discussing, and I marked these first four because these first four matches in QuickBooks. But here's the problem. There's a fifth invoice,
Mm.
344 for $1,000,
Coming from which side?
coming from design files. So this is my DF, my design files invoice report. But over here in QuickBooks, it's not here.
Mm.
So what would you do? You need to go ahead and well, first you're going to go across back over to design files and see why didn't it sync, right? It could be you didn't toggle the button, because in design files, you actually have to physically toggle a button to make sure it goes across. It could be that there is a duplicate invoice number. Maybe the client's name was too long. There's a myriad of reasons as to why things don't sync. You just need to really understand the system and
Hmm.
why yours didn't come across. But in this case, we went ahead and manually put it in. So I'm going to go ahead and check it off. So these are all my invoices. Our sales for the month were $5,000. For subtotal, we had $50 in taxes, 5,400 total. But we only collected, because we still have a balance. This is not paid. This is our
Hmm.
total invoice. We still owe that. So I'm not going to go through this, but this is all the payments. I've already verified. Yep, 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 yep. Everything is in. So you're like, okay, I'm done. But that's so quite. There's another step.
Not that easy.
Not that simple. All right, so let's go over to QuickBooks. And this is another area in which I see so many mistakes. So, and I purposely did the sample like this. So I had my one payment come in for 245. Where is it? Here. And QuickBooks is like, oh, I see a deposit came in a wire in this case. It matches. Then I'm like, yep, that's right. Let's go ahead and match that.
Because
Then
it matches the exact dollar amount.
the exact dollar amount. And QuickBooks is not smart. If it is off by a penny, it does not know that they're the same. It has to be the exact dollar amount. So then
Okay.
this other deposit comes in for 2250, and I'm like, yep, that matches. So then I'm like, oh, here's a deposit for 1900. And here's what
Mm.
I see most people do. They'll go, well, I know that this was for client, Carlene LeMay, I can't find it. And then I'll go ahead and add and just put it in there. So what you've just done is you've double recorded your revenue, because the invoice was already in there. We verified that, right? We made sure all the invoices were in there. We made sure the payments were in there. but because you're coding directly, and I'm going to show you, I'll actually save it. So you put it in here, you see services, you hit add, and you're like, all right, I'm good to go. I'm
Yeah,
done.
it's in there.
It's in there. But if you go over to your deposits, you're like, well, why are these two payments here? I made the deposit. What you did was you just recorded revenue. You did not clear these deposits. So when we work with a new client and we're cleaning up their books, we tend to see all of these undeposited funds. These are all payments that have come
Oh.
over and they're just sitting there. I'm talking, I've seen hundreds of
Hmm.
thousands of
Well,
dollars.
because people wait a really long time before they hire a bookkeeper. They think they're doing it themselves.
Exactly. So we're going to go back and remove what I just did. So let me just get rid of that. That's,
So you go over to categorize, you
yeah.
undo
And
them,
I'm
so
just going to
now they're
undo that.
in
Just this
for
last
review
one,
again.
undo. Yep. I undo
Okay.
it. It's back in there for review. So what I need to do and what you should do, the best practice, unless if you're physically taking one check and making one deposit, like on your phone, right? If you make a mobile deposit, usually your bank does them separately. So then it match QuickBooks is like, yep, match, match, match. But in real life, you could get 3, 4, 5 checks in one day. And then when you go to the bank, you're going to make one large deposit
One
for all of those
deposit.
payments. That's
Yes.
what you want to do. You need to make sure that the deposit in QuickBooks matches the deposit in real life, right? So whatever you physically put in the bank, you need to make sure that happens in QuickBooks. So in this case, I'm going to click new. I'm going to go to bank deposit. I know that I took these two payments to the bank physically because I was going out to lunch and I said, let me just stop by the bank. And I did it on October 10th. So instead of showing two separate deposits for 600 and for 13, I made one large deposit for 68. I don't have to add any information because QuickBooks already knows which payments were deposited. I hit save and close.
Okay.
And
So
so
you
now when I come
group
back,
them together.
yep. And now when I come back, QuickBooks goes, ah, there it is. Here's this deposit that came into your bank account for 1968.72. And I found a deposit for 1968.72. And it's like, hey, it looks like a match. And you go, that's a match. And now you are done. So
But do you have
it's
to
one.
add those?
When you receive payments, so when you make your payments in your design software, it syncs over those payments for you, but it sits those payments in that fund what we just show over here, this like bank deposits. It's called
Okay.
undeposited funds, and I always tell people it's literally like a folder that's sitting on your desk, just accumulating payments until you actually takes action on it. So if it's matching one for one, then QuickBooks can usually go, okay, I see a payment sitting over here for $500. I see a deposit for 500, and it matches it, right? But when you start combining deposits, or let's say Stripe, when you get a payment from Stripe, they take the fees out before
Yes.
put the money into your account. So your $1,000 deposit, by the time it hits your bank accounts for $950, it doesn't match.
Right.
QuickBooks doesn't know that $1,000 payment you recorded is this 950. You have to do extra work to make sure everything is going to match up. We're not going to go into Stripe here. That'll be a whole nother one because there's an extra step, and I don't want to go too deep into it. But there is just some work, and I want people to know that if you're frustrated because your revenue just seems off, it's usually because you're not reconciling your design software to QuickBooks. I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless you have a particular question in QuickBooks that I need to
Well,
keep
I
it.
do have a question actually,
Okay.
because when you make a deposit into a bank, even if you're combining three checks and you're making that deposit is coming over to your QuickBooks if you have your QuickBooks set up properly as one lump sum.
One lump sum.
So why did you have to go in and put it in for the
So,
date? Why wasn't it there?
because when I make a payment, let's do a really quick example. Uh, I don't want to go too crazy. Let's see. How can we do this? I'm going to receive a payment, even though I don't have an invoice to match, just for illustration purposes. So let's just say I received a check and I deposited it, and it's for $1,500, and I'm sitting, you see, it goes here. You see undeposited funds. It's not going into the bank account. That's another mistake people do. They have this going to the bank account. It goes into undeposited funds. I'm just putting it here just for illustration purposes.
Okay.
And I do another one for $200. Just
But you don't have to do this on your
no, you
QuickBooks
don't have to
when
do
you're
this. I'm just
depositing.
yeah,
You're just
I'm just
so in other
showing.
words, you
So
deposited into the bank yesterday, and today
right.
you go and it's showing 2 deposits in your QuickBooks.
It shows it in your QuickBooks, but here's the thing: if I made so now let me go over to my deposit. So if I receive two payments, one for 1,500 and one for 200. If I physically make two deposits in my bank account, one for 1,500 and one for 200, QuickBooks will do its work perfectly. The
Mhm.
problem comes in if I take these two together and physically makes a $1,700 deposit.
Yes.
That's where the QuickBooks is just like does not compute. It starts, the smoke is coming out the ears. It doesn't know what to do with that. Like
Okay.
seriously, it's just like I don't know that those are the same. So you have to then physically make a deposit in QuickBooks to match what you did in real life. It's
Okay.
like
Got
it's
it.
like algebra. You remember how algebra you have to have like one side of the equal sign matches the other. It has to be balanced. It's the
Yeah.
exact same thing. It's just like whatever happens in the real world needs to happen in QuickBooks for
So
it
you know
to
what this makes me
connect.
wanna do?
Well,
Deposit every check separately.
yeah, you can. And if for a lot of us, because we're not getting 17 checks a day, we're doing it
Correct.
on our phones, right? And so in
Right.
that case, it doesn't even compute.
But for
But
some of these large checks that designers are
mhm,
taking in, you can't do it on your
you
phone.
can't do it on
So
your phone, right? And then you're definitely going to batch a few that you received, or if you get a wire and they take a wire fee out, or if you get a Stripe payment and take
yes.
a Stripe fee. So whenever things aren't exactly how they come across in QuickBooks in real life, you're going to have to do some manual intervention. And the
Gotcha.
best way to do this is stay on top of it every single week. I know it's a pain in the butt. I know you would much rather go and design beautiful spaces, but you've got to stay on top of it every week if you're doing it yourself. Because once you get behind, then yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot for
Yeah.
sure. And I send a lot of my profit insiders to you because they have not looked at their QuickBooks in quite a long time. And nothing's matching, nothing seems right to them. And I have a feeling this is often the problem you find.
That is I would say 75% of interior designers that use software that come to us, this is a problem. It's
Wow.
just so standard for us. So,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Well, this is why all you interior designers need a bookkeeper.
And we love
That's
doing
my
interior
message.
design bookkeeping.
What?
We love doing bookkeeping for interior designers, so come to us.
I know it does get complicated and people don't understand. And let me ask you, can they come to you for cleanup and a lesson and then take it on themselves? Can they come up
Mhm.
just for cleanup? Like what can you do for people?
Yes, so we can do a cleanup. So if your books are a mess, we do what's called a diagnostic review. We go in, take a look at your books, and we just give you a quote. This is how much it would take for us to fix it to get you healthy. If you have the capacity to do it yourself, we're happy to do some training for you so that you can do it yourself. And then if you're like, nope, I'm good, I'd rather you do it yourself, do it for me, then we'll happily do that as well. So
Awesome.
we have
Okay.
options.
You have options. So I know the screen is small for some people, but I think that we got the gist. And you can always go over to my YouTube channel and check out the Balanced Bookkeeping playlist to get all of my videos or Colleen's videos with Leslie or I to kind of binge on bookkeeping
Yes.
if you want to.
If that's your jam,
Otherwise,
go for it.
we have a question coming in through Instagram. Do you work with FreshBooks?
No, we do not work with FreshBooks, and here's why. Because if you're using a third-party design software like Midoma, House Pro, Design Files, they're not going to sync with FreshBooks. So you're going to have to do a lot more manual. So if you're planning on growing your business and using those third-party softwares, you should go ahead and get ready to convert over to QuickBooks.
There you go. That's your answer, Shelley. Hope that was helpful. So, all right, Colleen. So everyone get over to c2-accounting.com. It's above Colleen's head.
There it is. Yeah.
And you give a free 15-minute chat about someone's
Mhm.
books if they need it.
Yep. We would do a complimentary consultation and see how we can support you. And then we kind of go from there.
Okay, so I have to tell you, I used a bookkeeper for years that I did not feel comfortable just asking a question to. I always felt like I was being made to feel stupid when I asked a question. So it's important to have a bookkeeper that you can talk to. And one of the things that Colleen and her team do really well is give you the ability to get on her calendar whenever you need to, right? You give everyone their monthly reports with a
Yes.
link to discuss it if they want to. And
Yes.
that, to me, is the biggest difference. And besides, you guys are super efficient. I never had a complaint about you guys. It's amazing to be able to just talk to your bookkeeper and not be made to sound or feel like a fool.
Well, yes, that's definitely our intention is to empower our clients to literally use their financial data to grow their business and make good decisions.
And we'll leave it there then, and we'll see you
There you
next
go.
month.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Take care.
everyone. Go have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you next time. Thanks,
Bye. Have
Colleen.
a good one.
Bye.